Let me paint you a picture. It's the end of the month. You open your banking app, you've been working hard, honestly, really hard, and somehow the number staring back at you is smaller than you expected. Not dramatically smaller, just smaller. And you sit there for a second, genuinely confused, because you didn't do anything crazy. You didn't go on a wild trip. You didn't buy anything big. You just lived. And yet the money is almost gone. That feeling, that quiet, slightly embarrassing confusion, that's what this video is about. Because somewhere between earning money and the end of the month, something is happening that most people never actually stop to understand. And the people who have figured it out, they're not doing anything flashy. They're not investing in crypto at 2 a.m. or waking up at 5 to grind. They're doing something so boring, so unsexy, that nobody ever makes a YouTube video about it until now. Hey, I am Deborah, and I study the gap between people who end up financially free and people who work their entire lives and still feel behind. That gap is almost never income. It is almost always one habit done consistently over time. Subscribe to Deborah Invests right now if you are not already here. Every week we break down the real financial behaviors that school skipped. Let us get into it. Here's where most people go wrong. When we think about building wealth, we think about making more money, more income, better jobs, side hustle, promotion. And yes, income matters. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't. But there's a quiet assumption baked into that thinking, and it goes like this. Once I make more, everything will get easier. The problem is that for most people, it doesn't. Because spending tends to rise right alongside income. You get a raise, you upgrade the apartment, you land a better job, you start eating out a little more, buying slightly nicer things. It feels reasonable in the moment. It feels earned. And that's exactly why it's so hard to catch. Psychologists actually have a name for this. They call it lifestyle inflation. And it's not a personal failure. It's almost biological. When your circumstances improve, your brain recalibrates what normal looks like. What used to feel like a treat becomes the baseline. And then you need the next thing to feel that same sense of reward. So the real problem isn't income. It's the gap between what you earn and what you spend. And most people never measure that gap. They just feel it at the end of the month, like you did opening that banking app. So what's the boring habit? It's this: knowing exactly where your money goes. Not guessing, not estimating, actually knowing. I know, you've heard this before. Track your spending. You probably nodded, thought, yeah, I should do that, and then didn't, because it sounds tedious. And honestly, it kind of is. But here's what changes when you actually do it. And I mean, really do it. Even for just 1 month. You stop being surprised. That might sound small, but it's enormous. Financial anxiety, that low hum of stress that sits in the background of your life, a huge part of it comes from uncertainty, from not knowing where you stand. When you actually track what's going in and coming out, the anxiety doesn't disappear, but it changes shape. It becomes information instead of dread. Let me give you a concrete example. Say you're spending $180 a month on food delivery. You didn't decide to spend $180. It just happened. A Tuesday where you were too tired to cook, a Sunday where it rained, a Wednesday meeting that ran long. Each order felt like $15, $20, no big deal. But when you actually add it up across the month, you see it. And seeing it gives you a choice that you never had before. You might decide 180 is totally worth it for your sanity. That's a valid decision. But now it's your decision. You're not just drifting, you're steering. This is what wealthy people, not the flashy rich, but the quietly wealthy, actually do differently. They have what some financial researchers call spending awareness. They know roughly what their life costs. Not because they're obsessive or restrictive, but because they've made it a habit to look. The same way you'd glance at a fuel gauge before a long drive. You're not staring at it. You're just aware. And here's where the psychology gets interesting. When you can see your spending clearly, you start to notice patterns you didn't know were there. You might realize you spend the most money on Friday evenings, when you're tired from the week and your willpower is lowest. Or that a particular type of stress, maybe work pressure, a difficult phone call, a bad night's sleep, sends you straight toward a purchase. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is wired to seek relief. And spending has become one of the fastest ways it knows how to find it. That's not a moral failing. That's just how the brain works under stress. But if you can see the pattern, you can start to interrupt it. You can build in a pause. You can ask yourself, am I buying this because I want it or because I'm trying to feel better right now? Sometimes the answer is still, I want it, and that's fine. But sometimes the answer surprises you. There's also a concept worth knowing here called the difference between fixed and variable expenses. Fixed expenses are things that stay roughly the same every month. Rent, utilities, subscriptions, loan payments. Variable expenses are the ones that shift. Food, entertainment, clothing, impulse buys. Most people have a decent sense of their fixed costs. It's the variable ones that quietly destroy budgets, because variable spending is where emotion lives. It's where the end-of-week takeout lives, where the treat-yourself moment lives, where the late-night online shopping cart lives. When you track both and you can see them side by side, you understand your financial life in a way that's actually empowering rather than overwhelming. Here's the mindset shift that changes everything. Budgeting, or tracking, or spending awareness, whatever you want to call it, is not about restriction. It's not about punishing yourself or living on rice and beans. That's the version most people imagine, and it's why they resist it. The real purpose is alignment, making sure your money is actually going toward things that matter to you, rather than leaking out toward things you barely remember. Think about it this way. You probably have a rough idea of what you want your life to look like in 5 years. Maybe more stability, maybe less stress, maybe the ability to help your family, maybe just a small cushion that means a car repair doesn't ruin your month. Those things cost money, and every month your spending is either moving you toward that life or quietly pulling you away from it. That's not guilt tripping, that's just cause and effect. And once you start to see it that way, tracking your money stops feeling like homework and starts feeling like navigation. So what does this actually look like in practice? You don't need an app. You don't need a complicated spreadsheet. For 1 month, just one, write down everything you spend. Or if writing feels like too much, take a screenshot of your bank statement at the end of each week and just read through it. That's it. At the end of the month, group things loosely into categories: food, transport, subscriptions, random stuff. Don't judge what you see. Just look. Notice what surprises you. Notice what makes sense. Notice anything that feels automatic, spending you don't fully remember choosing. Then ask yourself one question. Is this how I actually want to be spending my money? Not what you should want, what you actually want. From there, pick one thing to adjust. Just one. Maybe you cancel a subscription you forgot you had. Maybe you decide that Friday dinner out stays, but the midweek delivery goes. Small, sustainable changes made with full awareness are worth 10 times more than dramatic overhauls that collapse after 2 weeks. Over time, this habit compounds. Not just financially, though it does that too, but psychologically. You start to feel less like money is happening to you and more like you're an active participant in your own financial life. That shift in agency is quieter than a viral money hack, but it lasts. I want to leave you with this. Wealth is mostly invisible. The people who have real financial stability are usually not announcing it. They're not driving the loudest car or posting the most about their income. They've just built a quiet relationship with their money over time, one where they know where it goes and they've made sure it mostly goes toward things they actually care about. You don't have to be perfect at this. You don't have to track every single penny for the rest of your life. You just have to start paying attention. 1 month of honest looking is enough to change how you see things. And if you've been feeling that end-of-month confusion, that quiet frustration of working hard and still feeling behind, it doesn't mean you're bad with money. It might just mean no one ever taught you to look this closely. Now you know where to start. If this helped you see money a little differently, consider subscribing. I make these videos for people who want to think more clearly about their finances without the noise. See you in the next one.